Bianca, can you describe for me what it was like to grow up on the Mornington Peninsula in Melbourne?
Yeah, for me, I think I had a great childhood, one that was just full of sport, full of fun, and I guess when you're down there, it's kind of country. It's not all country, but yeah, there's not much else to do other than to be outside. And my parents were all about don't sit in front of the TV and don't sit in front of the computer, and we had to always be active. So my eldest sister, Natalie, and myself had horses on our property and just played every possible sport we could think of. And certainly netball at the time was not my favourite or one that I even really looked into playing until I was about 10. So yeah, I love playing basketball, swimming, athletics, anything I could do, I certainly would have a go at.
I doubt computers would have even been around back then, were they? So I'm thinking back to my own childhood.
Well, that's true. Maybe
we never had one.
Once I got a little bit older, maybe that's when they came into it. But yeah, definitely the TV. We weren't allowed to just sit in front of the TV and waste away our school holidays.
Yep. And now you're the middle child in between two other girls.
Yep.
Tell me what you have come to understand about that family dynamic.
Yeah, it's interesting because everyone's always, I guess, talks about the middle child and the middle child syndrome. And but for me, my older sister Natalie is 2.5 years older than me, and my younger sister Carly is 11 years younger. So there's a massive age gap between the two of us. But something that we absolutely love. So, you know, when I was 11 and Carly was born, Natalie and I were in the room when she was born, and Mum said, you know, that there's an opportunity obviously to be in there if we wanted to be, and obviously to prepare ourselves for what it was going to be like. And we both jumped at that opportunity, and I think since then Carly's been like not just a little sister, but been someone almost like we're her parents as well. And, you know, we've kind of brought her up, and yeah, she's like one of our best friends now. So I think it's been really great to have that relationship with her. And yeah, certainly I don't see her as the annoying little sister that perhaps Natalie saw me as we were growing up.
Yeah. And what do you think your view of the world was like at that age?
That's a really hard question. I think it was just as simple. Like, I just thought, you know, life was pretty easy, and you know, you just have fun and wasn't really stressful. And I guess I was lucky to be a part of a family that were, I guess, financially fairly stable. You know, we didn't have everything we wanted, but we had enough to keep us happy. And yeah, I didn't ever think that, you know, life was going to be a stress. I just thought it would just keep cruising on, and it sort of has.
Do you remember what you wanted to be when you grew up?
When I was growing up, certainly sport wasn't anything I really thought of. That's really hard. I think once I started playing sport, you know, physio was one thing that I thought of doing, and you know, being a fitness or personal trainer certainly came up at some stage, but there was nothing I really had cemented in my mind or that I really wanted to do. So I was just one of those kids that just didn't have anything, you know, in sight that I really wanted to reach for, and I guess that's where sport came in and gave me something to really strive for.
What did you work out pretty soon that you were pretty good at, aside from sport perhaps? Aside
from sport? At school, that came pretty easy for me. I certainly wasn't the brainiac of the class, but I wasn't the one that struggled either. Yet again, probably the same mentality. You just get it done. If it's hard, you ask questions, and you just find your way through. And I always found I had a really close-knit group of friends at school, and went to a very small private school in Tyab, Flinders College, and that education there, I look back now and think, you know, I felt so lucky to be a part of that school, and you know, I feel so privileged to have had that, because it was a Christian school, a community school where we learnt a lot of great values, I think. And at the time you think, oh yeah, I've got to sit here and go to a chapel once a week, and like, you know, no one enjoys that as a kid, but you know, it taught me a lot of great lessons along the way. And yeah, so I don't know, that's a really hard one to kind of pin down.
That's okay. So, I mean, you're a very tall young lady, and if you were anything like me, you were probably pretty tall growing up, pretty young. And it took a while for people to catch up to you. Do you remember that being a significant sort of social influence on you?
Absolutely, I do. I remember being in grade 5 and being the tallest in the entire school out of all the girls and all the boys, and obviously school photos, you're always way up the back.
Yeah,
and
in the middle.
Yeah, in the middle. But it was, and my mum had always said to me about, she always had an issue about wearing heels. She hated wearing heels. She's like, no, you'll be too tall. And my mum's 5'11", and as we were growing up as kids, we went to the Royal Children's Hospital, and they had, I don't know whether they were doing some kind of research, but they had the opportunity to estimate how tall you were going to be. So you'd have your hands x-rayed and to see whether the bones had fused. And so they said to me that I was going to be between 6'1" and 6'3". And so my mum being 5'11", and she thought that was massive. So she didn't want to wear heels. And so when they said that I was going to be between that, you know, I could make a decision that I could have developed a little bit quicker and stopped growing, or I could just carry on and end up, you know, being in between, which they were exactly right. I was 6'2". So at the end of primary school and the start of high school, I remember thinking in my head, what should I do? Is it going to be an issue? Am I going to hate it? I remember going in bed at some nights thinking about it so much, like whether I should do it. And it wasn't because Mum was putting pressure on me. She just wanted me to have the opportunity, you know, because obviously she didn't love being tall. And then I remember going to her one night and saying, you know what, I don't think I'm going to take it. I think I'm just going to, you know, let it go. And if I think back now, and if I had taken it, you know, I may never have ever done what I've done with netball at all. So, I've learnt to embrace my height, and if anything, that's one thing sport has certainly given me that opportunity to do that, to be able to just, you know, love it. And, you know, I wouldn't be where I was if I wasn't 6'2" tall.
And in the early days of learning netball, what kept you interested and engaged? Yeah,
from the start, it was more about my friends, just like, come on, Bianca, you're tall, play. Everyone, you know, it'd be such an advantage to have you on the team. But I had no interest in netball at all. I loved gymnastics, and then yet my height became a bit of a burden for that. And so my older sister Natalie played, and I used to sit there and watch her, and she was always goalkeeper, and I used to think that was such a boring position to be, that you're just down the back end of the court and no glory. But my friends finally convinced me to take the court, and when I did, I started to love just the fun of it. And, you know, after school we'd walk up to the netball courts and train, and it was more time you could spend with your friends, and that was pretty much how it started. And I just started to learn to love it, and yet again my height, I guess, became a positive thing. So it was an exciting thing to play the sport and to everyone to love that you were so tall.
How would you have described yourself at that time? Like, if you were looking at yourself now, how would you?
Very uncoordinated would be one thing. But yeah, I probably didn't make the most of my opportunities either. I think when I was at that age, I just played and I just had no interest in going any further. I just went along with the motions. It was something I did and something to do on a Saturday. So, I don't know, very happy though. I think I really love that part of it, and not the competition and not you know, where you had to fight for being on the court, or you just played, and it was just great to have, you know, your mum and dad would stand there on the sidelines and watch you, and whether it was raining or, you know, hot outside, you'd still get out there and always have a go.
Yeah. Do you remember aspiring to be like anyone? Did you have like a hero or?
Oh, not really. For me, probably, as I was starting to get more involved in netball, my sister became the person I guess I wanted to be like. And in our sport, you didn't really get the opportunity to see people on TV. You know, netball was always on at 11 p.m. at night, and so you didn't really know any well-known netballers. I used to love watching the Olympics and Commonwealth Games and seeing people just do something amazing. So whether it be a swimmer or, you know, a track and field athlete, just seeing someone achieve something and then just the elation on their face when they finished and they'd won a medal. And I think I used to always just couldn't get away from the TV during those moments. So they're probably it, but I couldn't actually single one person out to say, yep, that's who I wanted to be like.